Thank you for bringing Gaza to us. I'm going to ask Mosab a few questions, and then I'm going to make sure we have time for people in the audience to ask you questions as well. So I'm going to start very specific and ask you a question about your books. Mosab, your poetry in Things You Find Hidden in My Ear and Forest of Noise are deeply evocative. They draw on a lot of personal memory and the intimate details of daily life in Gaza and death. How does poetry differ from prose for you as a writer? And what does poetry allow you to express in a way that prose may not?
Thank you, Samia. For me, poetry is one medium through which I can preserve إيش؟ أعلى صوت? Okay. Can you hear me in the back? God bless you all. For me, poetry is one medium through which I can, as a human being, because before I'm a poet, I'm a human being. I'm a son, I'm a neighbor, I'm a teacher, I'm a father, I'm a survivor, I'm a refugee, it's everything. So it helps me as a human being to preserve both the experience and the emotions that I experience as a witness and a survivor, and someone who tries desperately to help his community survive. I mean, I can think of any medium that can help someone to put on paper something that is very intimate as poetry, because I'm not a journalist, although my poetry could be looked at as a work of a reporter, because every poem is about something that the media in this country and also in every place failed to portray and share with the people who wish they could visit Gaza before the genocide started and after it started. So that's why poetry for me is very important, because I'm not, I said that once, I'm not a camera, I'm not someone who, takes notes and, tell people what he saw and, the number of people or what happened or what kind of color he saw. No, I have emotions that cannot be separated from what I'm seeing.
Thank you for that. You mentioned the lack of media, and we all know that there is a huge lack of mainstream media. We're not seeing the videos that we were fortunate to see in terms of, we may see them on social media, and some of us are following pages, but we have the person who shot the footage of the media we saw there. So in your books, we see stories of loss, resistance, survival. What role do you think storytelling and literature play in the broader Palestinian struggle for justice and recognition?
I think continuing to write as a Palestinian through the generations is a proof that we have been struggling for a long time. When we read the poetry of Mahmoud Darwish, the poetry of Fadwa Tuqan, of Mu'in Bseiso, and until today, we know that these people have suffered the same on the hands of the same oppressors. We are the same people, and we have the same enemy, which is the occupation. So we have been struggling forever. So the kind of poems that I'm writing are not different. Although I'm writing in English these days. I'm not writing in Arabic because I'm not talking to my fellow Palestinians, because every one of them have similar poems, but they can't write them maybe now. So writing in itself is a way of telling people that we lived this 50 years ago. We lived this 40 years ago. We lived this last month. We lived it tomorrow. So we lived it tomorrow. So it's happening tomorrow. Because no one is doing anything except for, the powerful work that everyone is doing, to protest and amplify the voices of the people whose voices are suppressed in the media. So what I hope to do in my poetry, in my writing, is to at least offer some life to the stories of people who did not survive. I'm a survivor of the genocide, but also the stories that I have survived with me, and I have the obligation to share these stories and make them survive as long as possible. And you here are going to make these stories live when you tell them to your children and your grandchildren, and you teach them that what is happening has been a crime against you as a human beings. I mean, the Israelis and also the American administration, they are not committing crimes against my people in Palestine, but they are also committing crimes against you. You are watching everything and you're trying and it's not happening. Why? They are making you powerless. They are committing crimes against your human feelings. Why are we watching this for 14 months? What is one thing that the Palestinian people have not done to deserve not only the genocide, but for them to be watched every day? Have they failed to do anything? For example, they did not, for example, document, take videos and photos, write poems, talk on the radio, on PR. I mean, I tried many times, to talk to the Western media, but now I made it, especially because I have a poetry book, so my publisher sometimes connect me with. So, I mean, what if I did not write in English? People would assume that it did not happen, because as long as no one speaks about something, then people assume, it's fine, nothing happened. When someone closes the door at someone and they cover their mouth and they are not speaking, it doesn't mean that nothing is happening. It doesn't, if the light is off, it does not mean that there is no snake inside killing someone. Not only did they turn off the lights, but they closed the door. And they prevented anyone from approaching the room. That's what's happening. And the story that I'm telling is trying to try and shed some light in a very dark room, just like the videos that you saw.
That's a really good metaphor you use. I think some people shut the door, ignore the light because they don't want to face it, right? They don't want to read because they know when they do, then they're going to have to be called to action because it tugs at their humanity.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's okay. I'm fine. I'm fine with people ignoring what's happening. But you can't shut people down when they speak about it. And you can't, every American here can say, it's complex, I don't want to talk about it. No, you have to talk about it. Because it's your country, it's your tax dollar who is supporting the genocide. It's not up to you. If you want to ignore me, I wish you could ignore me. You stop sending weapons to Israel. Your country, because this is your money.
Yeah.
I agree. We are collectively responsible for what's happening, and we have to be collectively responsible for continuing to struggle for it to end. Your writing is one way to bring the stories to a broader mainstream audience, but can you talk about how writing has helped you personally deal with living in Gaza, living through a genocide in Gaza? How has writing offered a form of resistance or liberation in your life?
I think I partly answered that in the first question when I said that at least if I couldn't help my people survive the genocide itself, at least I can get their stories out. Because everyone, just imagine this, there is another level of genocide here, which is that, and by the way, this is something I was asked yesterday, and sometimes when you are asked a question, you come up with answers you were not aware of. So I said this yesterday in a meeting with MFA students at Arizona State University. I said that one function of writing and poetry is to redefine words. For example, when there is an airstrike in Deir al-Balah, people say, there was an airstrike in Deir al-Balah that killed 10 people. Then a few minutes later, there is an airstrike in Nusayrat, 20 people were killed. And then there is an airstrike in Beit Lahia, and a whole family, by the way, there is a family called Abu Nasr, who were killed in their house, about 200 people. So far, they were able to bury 125 people, and their names are on my phone. So the people would say, there is an airstrike in Beit Lahia that killed 200. What is this word airstrike? What is this word bombing? It doesn't mean anything, because these are not similar. Because every bombing is different. People need to be talked about as entities, as human beings. So what poetry and what writing is trying to do is to redefine what is this airstrike? What is this a human being? Every one of us is different. And every airstrike is different. And every genocide is different. I refuse to compare my genocide to the genocide of other people before me. Because this is happening live. It's not something that is happening and people are reporting about it after a month of it. There is no lack of videos, no lack of images, no lack of poems, no lack of essays, no lack of interviews. And there is no lack of this statement, Israel has the right to defend itself. When shall the Palestinian have something like, the Palestinian people have the right to something? You can fill it up with anywhere. But I mean, we have never heard that Palestinians have any right at all. We don't have a right to our land. We don't have a right to our sea. We don't have a right to the rain that falls on our land. We don't have even a right to speak about our country. And we don't have even the right to fight back. How many people have been killed in Gaza by the Israeli soldiers while they were in their houses? So for example, if I was sitting in my house with my wife and kids and the Israeli soldiers broke into my room, do I really, Harris and Biden and Trump, please tell me, do I have any right to defend myself and my children against these people? No one is talking about us as people who have reaction against occupation and killing. Do we have to die silently? And by the way, there is another level of genocide, which is Israel has been denying our existence by saying that there are no Palestinian people, and these Palestinian people, they barely exist. And when we are killed, they say, well, Hamas is lying, these are Hamas numbers. So we are not recognized as people who exist, and when we are killed, we are not recognized as being killed. What is this genocide? I think this genocide, this word even is not enough. ما بكفي. Enough.
I'm going to ask one last question, and then I'm going to open up to the audience. If you could share one message with readers who may be unfamiliar with what's the history of Gaza, besides or just coming to it from the few things they're watching the genocide, but want to learn more and want to help, what would you say? Yeah, to people who are just starting, picked up the book, maybe starting to read, don't know a lot, but then want to learn, they want to help. Often we get asked, what can we do to help?
Yeah, there is one saying in the literary community in Gaza, which is that Gaza exported oranges and short stories to the Arab world. So we have been exporting short stories from Gaza. And not only this, we are reliving the stories that we have written in the past. One thing to learn about Gaza is that, and by the way, there is something very important about this genocide, by the way, because Israel is not only killing Palestinians in Gaza, also in the West Bank. We should not forget that people in the West Bank are being massacred. But the magnitude of the suffering of the people in Gaza has made the suffering in the West Bank less terrible. This is what occupation means, Yeah. So you open CNN. Sometimes I don't watch the news, by the way. I don't care what they say. But sometimes because I'm on the plane, so I try to see, CNN. So nonstop they're talking about the elections, about Trump and the fear and. What about us? If America didn't have to do with what's happening, I'm fine with that. But we are killed with your weapons. We are killed with your weapons. Why don't you even talk about what? It's something like you are giving a reckless child a knife, and then you leave the room, leave them do whatever they want. Yeah. Just watch. At least cover what your knife is doing, and what your reckless child is doing with this weapon. So what Israel is doing to the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and also in the West Bank is that they are killing refugees. 70% of the people in Gaza are refugees, including me and my people, my family. So when Gaza kills 31 members of my extended family, my father's cousin, Khadr Abu Toha, his wife and his children and his grandchildren, I didn't get the chance even to bid them farewell. Because it was even dangerous for me to travel from my city, Bethlehem, to Gaza City. Assuming some of their bodies could be seeable. So Israel is not only killing people in Gaza, but they are killing refugees. And a refugee is something sacred. It is a human being who dreams of returning to his Yafa, to Haifa, Nasira, Safad, Majda, Al-Akka, too many cities. Yeah, but I mean, so you are not only, and also they are bombing the refugee camp. So there is something. So it's too many levels of this genocide that I think that cannot be compared to any other genocide. But of course, it is painful to read about what happened to other people. But we are talking about something that is done live and done to refugees and done to refugee camps and even UNRWA itself. The witness of our tragedy is being delegitimized. We are so many levels. So I wish that every one of you would take a sentence or an image or a poem from what we heard today and share it with anyone you meet in the street. Wear your kufiyya. Wear your Free Palestine. Because Free Palestine doesn't mean the killing of anyone in anywhere. Free Palestine means we need to exist. We have the right to exist. Why is everyone free to say free America of, let's say, from extremists? Or from, there is something that I heard 2 days ago about Biden, Trump. He wants to deport, this is important. He wants to deport undocumented immigrants. And this really invited me to think about the Zionists, and I refuse to say Jews, the Zionists, who came to Palestine in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. These were undocumented immigrants. Why do they have the right to exist in my country? Is there any president who would deport them? Because, of course, as a Palestinian, I don't have the right, for example, to live in Europe. If I wanted to live in America, I have to apply for a visa, and it's very, very difficult, of course. But anyone in Israel, they have the right to visit any country in the world. I wrote a piece for the New Yorker about what it means to travel as a Palestinian, and I did some checking, and I found that anyone with the Israeli passport can enter about 140 countries visa-free. At least me as a Palestinian, I have to apply for every country visa. I have to apply. Sometimes I'm rejected. These people have been killing us. Their army. This is an occupation. And they are allowed to visit any country without any visas. Very recently, the United States. And I'm not allowed even to visit any country, and I have to apply for visas, including some Arab countries, by the way. Why? At least.
Jerusalem, it will be good.
Yeah, but at least, if these countries are upset with what Israel is doing, at least they should tell them, we are going to require visas from your citizens. And they are allowed to kill us in Gaza and then travel, and even in Amsterdam yesterday they were chanting death to Arabs. And they were tearing the Palestinian flags on some houses. What is your business here? People love Palestine. Why do you tear the Palestinian flag in Amsterdam?
Our existence is a threat.
Yeah, our freedom is a threat to other people because they know they are on the wrong side of history.
Thank you. Okay. Before we take a few questions, I'm going to give you one idea. How many people in here have children who are in schools right now? Okay. I suggest you do what I am going to do, which is buy this book and this one and get them signed and then gift them to your children's teachers. My kids' English teacher is going to get one. Their social studies teacher is going to get one. Their math teacher is going to get one. Their science teacher is going to get one. All of the teachers are going to get one with a little note, something to help get to know my kids a little better. And I'm going to buy them. They're entering high school next year for them too. Donate them to your kids' schools' libraries because they're not going to go out, in these mainstream educational places and get them themselves, but they will take them as gifts. And I also want to remind people, with all of the privilege that we have being here tonight in a warm place, in a safe place, and we're going to head home soon, to remember to give whatever you can to Mecca. Mecca is on the ground. You saw the Mecca video, you saw Mosab's video. Whatever it is that you can give, whether that's tonight, which would be great, tomorrow, in a month, the following month, it is going to be ongoing need. We know that. And now, I'm going to after I made my public service announcements, I think we have time for 3 questions, because I know people want to get their book signed.
I'm just going to speak briefly here, just to express appreciation for what Mosab is doing and traveling from city to city, speaking on our behalf. I'm also a Palestinian from Gaza. I was born a refugee. My grandparents are from El Majdel. They both passed away. My grandfather passed away in 1993. My grandmother passed away recently in 2019 due to a stroke. I never got to say goodbye because I left Gaza in 2013. I don't get to express myself much. And for Palestinians or Palestinian Americans specifically, we have a big identity crisis. Comes tax season. That's a big conflict for us. We have to deal with the survivor's guilt. We have to deal with our own conscience, paying money to the same government that's going to send that money to Israel to kill our families. The sheriffs, my family also lost about 30 people in this war so far, and they're not able to bury some of them still because they're under the rubble. So I don't have a question tonight. I just want to say, if you're Palestinian, walk with your chin up. Don't try to hide yourself, because our existence is resistance. And
anyone else from Gaza,
In
guys?
the back corner, I'm gonna call on Rima because I've seen her a lesson that she's done with using Mosab's poetry in her class.
I asked a question. If there is anyone else from Gaza here? Okay.
Raise your hand.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Mosab. I am a huge fan. I teach her poetry. Oh, can you guys hear me?
No. Use your teacher voice.
Okay. So I'm a huge fan. I teach her poetry. It's so powerful, and I love using it as a way to help people humanize us, because we are often forgotten and silenced. I'm an educator, you're an educator, and we know that we carry a lot of the emotions that our students experience. And I cannot even begin to fathom the weight that you carry with the students that you teach and what has happened to them. My question to you is, we teach based on student need, right? How is it that you teach your students? What is your focus? What is it that you try to do with literature to help your students gain something? What is your focus when you teach? So that's my.
So I don't teach literature to students. I teach in Gaza. I used to teach fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grades. My way of teaching was to integrate, some personal stories, some pictures that I was taken from Gaza, and also when I was in the States, So I was inviting my students into my own world. I was showing them that I'm not only a teacher, but I'm also a friend. One of my students, God bless his soul, Hatem Zaanin, was killed by the Israeli forces. I think 2 weeks ago, while he was collecting some firewood for the family in Beit Hanun. And I remember I taught him in 6th grade, and I went to Syracuse to finish my MFA. And while I was there, he used to call me, and sometimes I opened my camera to show him the campus and the area. And I promised him, I told him, he was I would say he was my best student in terms of grades and also manners. He was very, very polite. I have a video of him reciting a short story that he picked for a short story contest 3 years ago. So my way of teaching my students was by showing them some of part of my life. I was inviting them into my world, showing them where my English, where my studying took me. So I was teaching English language, not literature. But as I said, I was showing my students part of my world. One time I opened one photos of, I think I was in Arizona 3 years ago. I went to Mount Lemon, right? Here? Mount Lemon. And I showed them on the video how the kind of trees and the plants change the more you go up in the mountain. I was a child at the moment, by the way, when I took the video. I couldn't, that was very strange for me because Gaza is just a very tiny plot of land. It's only 141 square miles. You don't see that much, difference between the areas. But when I went up with my friend Aftim, Saba, whose sister is here, we went up on the mountain and I started filming. He was showing me, Mosab, this tree is different from the trees that we saw before. And I was showing my students, I was opening their eyes into the outside world, which is refusing us. It's not only refusing us in terms of not allowing us to travel, but we don't have an airport in Gaza. We don't have a seaport in Gaza. And we are facing lots of difficulties even to go to an embassy. Just imagine, it's not only about not being able to travel, but also even to attend the visa interview at an embassy. So I was bringing the world to my students. And in this case, I'm coming to you, I'm bringing Gaza to you. Because you can't go to Gaza, not before or after October 7th. Thank you.
One more question. One last question.
Can we push it on?
The last two here.
Sorry. Sorry.
Hi, Mecca, thank you for hosting Mosab today. I'm very grateful to be here to hear you speak. I have just returned myself from Egypt on Wednesday of this week, where I was working with displaced Gazan families. And I have to say that I returned feeling very hopeful and optimistic at seeing the resilience of the families who did make it out and who are very much eager to rebuild their lives. Mosab, how do you encourage those of us Palestinians living in diaspora to feel encouraged and to absorb the resilience of the Gazan and the Palestinian spirit?
What's your name?
Suha.
Suha.
Suha Mahmoud Isa Narani from
Ahlan sahlan, sharrafna. So, thank you so much for the question, but I would like to say that this encouragement is needed not only by the Palestinian people, but everyone who is in the room here, be them Jewish, Christians, Arabs, Muslims, atheists, anything. So the encouragement is needed by everyone, and when I talk, I address everyone. More the American people, more the European people, more the British people, whose government, in the English language, granted my country to Zionism. I think, as you mentioned, Palestinian people are people who could create life even under the rubble. my father when the house was bombed. So we can see the resilience, and we can. I mean, some people ask me, Musab, how do you do this? How are you doing all this travel? How can you write? I mean, I'm looking at my people being killed every day, standing in lines to get food and water, running from one place to another. Did you see the video yesterday of the mother who was dragging her two daughters in front of the Israeli tank? I mean, I take courage from this. They don't stop. Because if they stop, they fall. And the same thing, you shouldn't stop. You should keep running. And with you, everyone who sees you, we should be running after you. This is how we liberate ourselves before we think of liberating Palestine.
Last question.
Hi, Mosab. Thank you so much. I've been following you for a long time, and in some ways, I also don't read the news. I follow your Twitter and Instagram because I feel like it's an authentic voice and witness to what's happening, even as you've been outside of Gaza. And my question is, I'm a Lebanese person. I'm from South Lebanon. We also lost people in the terrorist bombardment in South Lebanon most recently. And I find it hard for some other Arabs, including Lebanese people, to sometimes connect the Palestinian resistance and their cause with all of our collective liberation, and I find this so frustrating. How do you connect those two things together? I think all of these things are connected, and I look to Palestine and to Palestinians with so much I'm so proud of them, and I feel like our liberation is all connected to it. And I'm wondering how you see these things. And briefly, my husband is from Jaffa as well. He's never been to Jaffa. And I have a dream of one day taking a train from southern Lebanon to Jaffa one day, inshallah.
I can't think of an occupation that not only existed, but also was recognized and became a state. I can't think of a state that was built on the ruins of other people, and then it was admitted to the United Nations. And then after that, they kept, labeling every UN resolution as anti-Semitic. I mean, the question is, if everything that we say is anti-Semitic, so what word, what adjective can we label you when you kill us? Not even say bad words about us. No. When you kill Palestinians, do I say, oh, you are anti-something? And this goes on. This is taught at universities that if you do this, then you are anti-Semite. What about anti-human then? You are not only killing people, but you are building your state, and your state is getting funded every single minute. So our struggle for liberation is connected to the struggle of every single nation that's been struggling, and we have lots of struggles that are not as obvious as the Palestinian struggle. We have the struggle of the native people in this country to reclaim their land, to reclaim their identity that's been taken away from them. We have our struggle is connected to the Lebanese struggle against occupation and against military occupation. South Lebanon has been occupied, and even though it was liberated, I think in 2006 or 2000, but still Israel has access to that area. They could just press on the gas, and then you find them inside Lebanon. So our struggle is not only connected to nations and countries, but also to people who struggle to find their freedom in their own societies. We are people who do not give up. And I told you, I didn't tell you that my father, even after the bombardment of our house on October 28th, and I showed you a picture of my house, of my family house. My father made a room out of the tent, out of the rubble of the house. And he planted some trees. I have video of my father. I miss my father so much. I haven't seen him since last November, not because I'm here, but because I can't be there. So there is a difference between being here, and I mean, sometimes I get shocked, not because of the ignorance here. It's everywhere. Someone on the train today, he knew, I mean, when I told him my name is Mosab, on the train, I asked him, how do I come to North Berkeley? So he told me, oh, you take the red line, and he took me and showed me how to come here, to the train station that's close here. And then he recognized me as having appeared on NPR Fresh Air with Terry Gross, and said, oh, I know you, you are famous. And then he asked me, so you go to Gaza, you go back and forth. So sometimes ignorance shocks me, I mean, how can I come back? How can I go back to Gaza when Israel not only destroyed Rafah, not only did Israel destroy Rafah, but they destroyed the border crossing. Which means that I now, talking to you, I don't know if I will be able to return to Gaza, even after this comes to an end. Because Israel is now building a border crossing point, I think in Kisufim, or there is a point that they are making in Rafah. So they are replacing even the Rafah border crossing. They will, as always, but now more and more, they will control who gets into Gaza and who leaves Gaza. And I'm not sure if I will be able to return to my country after this comes on. So the struggle does not end with the ceasefire. This is very important. So ceasefire is just, it's like a handshake. But we need someone to lift us, stand on our feet, and give us clothes. Not literally, of course. But I mean, bring us to life. Not the life that we had before October 7, but the life that your children have in this country.